Hi everyone. In this lesson, I am going to share with you my process in dealing with creative briefs. Now, one thing to explain what a creative brief is that it is essentially a workflow for you. It is a guide from the client on what they're looking for your design project. So it's going to incorporate a lot of different elements in the end. However, many times nowadays, your creative brief starts with an email from the client or a potential client, somebody who's looking for a service that you provide, and that's where the process starts. So depending on your experience, your level of comfort, how long you've been doing this, all of these different things that make up our design selves are going to come into play from the initial email that you receive from a client. So this lesson is going to show you what a creative brief is, the components of a creative brief, and then I'm also going to share with you some insight into my own workflow of how I process all of this information. And again, this comes from experience. I have been doing this for 10 years now, and I work in a lot of different areas of design. Print design is just one of them. I approach everything from a marketing perspective, and you're going to see that in this lesson particularly, and the value that has when you have those little bits of information floating in your head to help you through a creative brief. My goal with a client is always to it's actually to eliminate as much back and forth as possible. We're all busy people. We don't have a lot of time. So if you're constantly having to email or you're constantly having to meet with clients to get everything that you need, it just eats away at your timeline. Now, some projects are going to require that more than others. In this course, we're looking at designing a brochure. So the goal here is to just be able to get what we need and get going on the design. We don't have to have a lot of emails back and forth. We don't have to have a lot of meetings. So for most of your design projects, this workflow is going to work for you. So let's take a look at our email example. Now, I have an email example here that is going to give you great insight into the most common thing that you're dealing with as a designer. So let's look. Right now, we just have a general, hi, Nikki. We are looking at creating a brochure for Acme Co. We want this brochure to depict our branding through strong photography and a modern chic look. Please provide us with your rates and an estimated timeline for completion. Thanks. Okay. Couple of things might be going through your mind here. Wow, that was really short. And you can see here that I have my email example titled The Brief Brief. And that is why I have this. And we are starting with this, and I'm not going to show you any other email examples because 90% of the time, this is my initial email that I get. It's so brief, and sometimes I don't even get this. It starts with, we're just looking for a design project. Can you do it? So it's okay though. The point of this is to dissect this, get what you can out of this email, ask the right questions back if you need to. But again, the goal is to eliminate the need to go back and forth. So what can we get out of this email that we can start off running with this project? All right, so we're going to dissect this email, and then we're going to look at the creative brief components. They're going to help you fill in the blanks. Okay, so the first thing that you're looking at here is what is it that they need? That's probably the easiest part. And by what is it that they need, we're looking at what is the project. Okay, so in this case, the project is a brochure. Easy enough. They don't specify what type of brochure. They just need a brochure. So you can assume here that perhaps this means that you're going to be able to have some creative freedom and decide for them what type of brochure this is going to be. Is it going to be a standard trifold? Is it going to be a gatefold? Things like that. And then we know that they want to depict their branding through strong photography and a modern chic look. So now we have some insight into the design. They want strong photos. Do they have this photo, or are we going to need to obtain or take them? And they also want a modern chic look. So we know now essentially what the look is going to be geared towards. It's not going to be vintage. It's not going to be romantic. It's not going to be time sensitive. It's just a modern, clean, chic look. And that happens to work for me because that is the style that I prefer. If I were to design something, I can adapt my designs, but I prefer modern chic. That's sort of my go-to look. So I'm okay with that. And then they say, please provide your rates and an estimated timeline. So I have set rates for my brochures. I usually start with just a flat rate, and then I go from there depending on what their needs are. Again, I can't give you an exact rate to use because this is going to vary based on your experience, your own overhead, your own business structure, and all of that. But I do base my flat rate on my hourly rate and have just a go-to rate for a basic brochure. I also am a photographer, so I can take some of the photography for this brochure if needed, so that might be worked into the estimate as well. The point here, though, is the print design workflow, not the business side of it. So we're going to continue on to the next part. So the first part of our creative brief is to start gathering information. So the background and the overview of our project. We know that we need to create a brochure. We know that it needs to have strong photography and a modern chic look. What else do we know? Well, this is where you're going to need to start researching. And thanks to the internet, you're able to do this without even sending an email back to a client to start with. And this means that you're going to go online and you're going to immediately look at their website. You're going to see what you can find on their social media channels and start to get a feel for how their items already look. And that's going to give you the background that you need for the project. The next thing that you need to look at is, what is the objective? What is the purpose of this brochure? We are designing a brochure, so that is what we're going to keep coming back to. What is the purpose? So the purpose of this is going to be a few things. It's going to be sales. It's going to be to grow the audience for this company. So those are the two main things. They either want to sell something or they want to grow their audience. They may want to do both. They may want to sell something and in turn grow their audience. But those are usually the two main purposes of a brochure, is to get information out there about a product, service, or event, and then to sell said product, service, or event. Okay, so that essentially could be our purpose. So once you have your objective and your purpose, and you can just do this on paper or on your screen or however you want to work with this, but essentially our objective and purpose is to sell and to increase brand awareness, okay? Two major things. There's other things involved, but we're going to keep it simple and just look at those two options. The second part of your creative brief, and what we're doing right now is just accumulating notes. From there, we will go on to where you would take these notes into a professional creative brief, but we're just taking the notes portion for our design selves right now. The next part is the target audience. This is something that if you have a marketing background, you will be able to help figure out based on the website, based on other materials they may have. If you are not involved in marketing and you are just a designer, then what you would do is ask the question from your client, who is your target audience? And this is essentially, who are you talking to? So this brochure is aimed exclusively at fill in the blank. So it depends on what they're selling, what they want to do, and then they're going to say, okay, we want to target this to existing customers in specific areas, okay? So again, this is a little more marketing than design, but that's just an idea of who your target audience is. So your target audience is demographic information for a select group of people, all right? And then the next part is, what's the single most important thing to say? And your important thing to say is, what is the brochure going to say? So what you need to think about this is it going to help somebody? Is it going to simplify something for your customer? What exactly is this brochure going to do? So again, this is a conversation with your client, or if you can guess through looking at their website and other information, you may be able to find out what this is and what you want to say on the brochure. After that, you're looking at what are supporting rational and emotional reasons to believe and buy. This is really important for a brochure because it's promotional, but you have to think about what are the rational and emotional reasons to buy for your customer. And this is something that The more you know about the product or service, the better. And what this means is that there's several reasons that we buy as consumers, and you can use yourself as an example. So we're going to think about 5 things. Is it free? Is there a discount involved? Is there a 100% guarantee for a service or an app that I'm downloading? Are there any rave reviews from real users that I can include in the brochure to help sell this? And does it save me time? Again, there are more benefits here than I can list, but these 5 are the key things to get you started when you're looking at selling something. Is it free? Is there a discount involved? Is there a 100% guarantee? Are there any rave reviews? And does it save me time? Now, all 5 of those things are not going to go on the brochure. So you pick one of those and that's what you're focusing on. And that's what fits your product or service. Okay. After that, we have what else is there? What else is going to assist us with the creative development of this brochure? Do we have any user quotes? Do we have any insights into how consumers buy, specifically the consumers of Acme Co? If they're a coffee shop, how do consumers buy? If they're a software company, how do consumers buy? So those are really important for you because you will tailor your design based on how consumers buy. And then you need to have the mandatory call to action, the logo and the website address at the very minimum for your brochure. So that is the 7 elements of a creative brief that you will fill in along the way for your project. And this could be 2 things. One, you can create an official creative brief that you send to the client to sign off on. In many cases, though, I don't do that. I simplify things and I have the creative brief for my own self to create, but I'm not making a creative brief to send to a client. So it will depend on the situation and what the client expects. More times, though, I'm actually just creating this for me. So it's a little more casual and a little less professional. The last thing that you want to do is a client services checklist, and you want to make sure that you have enough assets, including logos and photos, to create your designs. You want to make sure that you have enough reference resources. Have you had a look at previous promotional materials so that you can keep in line with the style and the branding that they've already enforced in the company? Do you have any end information? So do you need any more information? Is there information you don't have? Is there information that you kind of have, but you need to fill in the blanks? You need to detail what that is and then a quick email or call to the client to fill in those gaps. What are the client requirements versus their preferences? This is the biggest thing you can think about, guys. Requirements versus preferences. Requirements is something that's non-negotiable for the most part. You need to incorporate it into your design, but preference can be weighed based on how it's going to integrate into the brochure and how important it is. So you may look at a preference and go, okay, this is how I can tweak it to fit into the brochure or exceed their preference, but it's not necessarily a requirement. So that's important to think about when you're working with clients. And then finally, do you represent the client's issues, concerns, wishes, and then what can you do to extend beyond that? Super important to think about that you're covering all the bases, but then go above and beyond what they've asked you to do to really lock them into using you in the long term. So this is a look at how to deal with creative briefs from the very, very basic of email suggestions all the way down to now we have a very simple but a very doable action plan to continue on with our design. So now that we have the client brief, next up we're going to look at folder structure for organization.